That said, I could totally spend hours debating this issue. Everyone uses prophecy. Drumroll, please. The overarching structure. We all love a good book series, especially if it's long. Well, that may just be me. Who knows? We'll see. The excitement of knowing what's going to happen next, the tense cliffhangers, the chaos of hoping your favorite character lives to see the next book, although that one is usually more attended to high fantasy, but I digress. So I'm looking at you, Cassandra Clare and George R.R. Martin. I'm glaring at you, actually. Well, affectionately. We digress. And of course, the intricately woven plot threads. Don't forget the foreshadowing and the many, many Chekhov's guns, which I will totally be making a video about later. Deciding to write a series is tricky, and once you've decided it, it's even harder to then figure out, what the heck am I doing now? Don't worry, I can help. I've outlined a lot of series. Have I written them all? No, I don't have that kind of time, but we'll get there. Starting from scratch when writing a series is chaotic. Figuring out how to format everything, how to outline your character arcs, how to outline your plot structure, it can all be really confusing, so it's important to know where to start, and that's this. This is where to start. It's impossible to know where to start, but that's here. Here's where to start. Also, hi, I'm Rowan. Today I am going to help you figure out where to start with outlining your book series, be it a fantasy, a science fiction, a horror. You can apply this to everything, but mostly the references I'm going to be making are going to be to fantasy and maybe some sci-fi because those are the genres I write in. I'm an aspiring fantasy author and overworked high school student, so give me some slack because I'm totally sleep deprived. I promise I'm not. I do actually sleep, guys, but this is fun, so I get over it. But really important, why are you listening to me about writing series? How many series has she written? Only one. I've written 4 books in a planned 10-book series, but I have outlined a lot. I don't know how many. At least 6 or 7. At least. So we'll figure that out later. I don't know how many book series I've outlined. At least 6 or 7. Probably more. I have like a running list of ideas. We'll discuss it later. I'll do like a video at one point just going through all of the projects I'd love to do. But for the sake of this, I am someone who loves outlining series and who has found a lot of success in outlining series in the past because I have really endless ideas. So, yeah. First, however, before we get into it, I really want to discuss the benefits of writing a series versus writing a standalone. There's a lot of them, but it really boils down to this. A series allows you more space. When writing a series, you have as many books as you need to fully flesh out your characters, your plots, your world building. Whatever it is you love to focus on, a series allows you more time to work on it. Now, this will also therefore end up meaning you spend a lot more time writing and a lot more time in this one particular world. So if you're someone that just really wants to run through 6 different books in 6 different universes, series might not be for you. But if you're someone that loves to intricately create your world and to focus on characters or plots from this one world, I recommend making a series. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a fantasy nerd, so a lot of the series examples I'm going to bring you are fantasy. All of them. I've read a lot of them. So it's also important to note that when you're writing a standalone, there is a specific number, a limit to how much time you have, how many words you have. As much as we would all love it if books were 2,000 pages, or actually, no, we don't, because how would anyone ever finish it? I'm looking at you, George R. R. Martin. You're the person that wants a book to be 2,000 pages. And as much as we'd all love as much time and space as we want to expand these worlds, no one wants to buy a 2,000-page book, no matter how much you want it, George R. R. Martin. But it doesn't really matter because a series lets you have that time, that space to expand, to keep going, and to make your story as interesting and as developed as you want. Another benefit of a series is a larger cast. For instance, The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare has 6 main characters and 6 books. While it's not split evenly, one as the main character in each book, certain characters have more screen time in one book and certain characters have more in another. For instance, characters like Simon Lewis is much more of a central protagonist in the 4th book, City of Fallen Angels, than he is in the 1st book, City of Bones, because there's more time to work on him and his plot was more important to the 4th book than the 1st. Another thing about this is character arcs. You can expand them over long periods of time. I love complex character arcs. My main character has a ridiculously complex character arc. Way too long, way too detailed, and I'm not even done with it yet. So there's that. Again, just to sum up, the difference is the amount of space you have to tell your story. Not everything has to be a series. Some ideas are better as standalones, but a lot of ideas aren't. A lot of times you really want to expand your world. You want to know everything about it. And when that's the case, a series is the right path to follow. That said, how do we come up with a series? Well, once we decided we want to write one, the first step is, of course, figuring out how many books are going to be in that series. Important qualifications. There are different titles for different types of series. Overall, a series is a collection of books set within the same universe, usually with an overarching plot or singular villain or, themes, characters. It varies, but it is a series of books. Gods, I need some synonyms. A series is a collection of books that is more than a single standalone book. However, there are some distinctions. A duology is a series of books that is only 2 books long. For instance, Leigh Bardugo's Six of Crows duology, which I will reference again later. Don't you worry, guys. Don't you worry. In contrast, a trilogy is a collection of 3 books. For instance, Cassandra Clare's The Infernal Devices series. I swear I read more authors, but these are the ones I have read the most. And finally, you call it a series if it is 4 or more books. So for instance, all of the things I write are series. The Percy Jackson series, not the Percy Jackson quartet. Would that be the phrase? I don't know. Anyways, the first thing you want to do when outlining a series is you want to pick your series length. For instance, my main book series was originally going to be 9 books, made up of 3 mini trilogies. It is now 10 books, made up of 2 5-book series arcs, things that get mushy and complicated. Don't follow my path, guys. Outline it more. You'll have way more time. It'll be way more fun. Trust me. I'm kidding. I love my books. They're amazing. You should love your books too, no matter how bad you think they are. They're amazing. I'm probably totally going to cut that part too. I did this with most of my book series. It's also important to remember that you can always change this later. Like I mentioned, I've already changed the length of a lot of my series. I used to think that trilogies were the best format, but actually once I started working on my plots more, I decided that most of my books and the complexity of their plots worked better in 5-book series, which is why most of my series are now 5-book series. And one of the ones I'm working on now, A Dark Academia with the Politics of Game of Thrones. So Oh Gods is a 5-book series. Next, once you know how many books, it's important to work on the individual book conflict. What exactly is that main villain, that main problem in this specific book? This is often where most people get scared. They're like, oh my gods, how do I come up with enough villains? You can always come up with enough villains. There are always enough plots. There are always enough challenges. You can think small, you can think big. You want to make sure that each book has a certain level of villain. Your first book, they defeat the villain. But in the second book, everything's fine. It's been a year. Oh, wait. No, it's not. The villain was working with a partner. Now that's their villain. Think about things like that. Think about plot lines like that. Think about ways to come up with more characters, more villains, because each book in your series needs to have a resolved conflict. Your readers won't be satisfied if you keep leaving them on a cliffhanger and the villain isn't defeated. That said, if you are making a series, you can have a main villain that you've known since book 1, who the hero has fought and they don't succeed against until the final book, as long as the hero does have victories. Take, for instance, the hero fights the villain in book 1 and the villain gets away, but the hero manages to defeat the villain's henchmen. Or in book 2, the hero has to fight a monster that the main villain has sent after them. They're still fighting the main villain, but they've conquered the conflict of that specific book. I'm trying to think of a good example to this. I'm not looking at these. These bookshelves are nonfiction. These are the nonfiction history shelves. One example of this is Leigh Bardugo's Shadow and Bone trilogy. Hear that? It's a trilogy, guys. The main character, Alina, needs to collect powerful amplifiers to increase her abilities in each of the 3 books in the trilogy. Therefore, that is the goal and conflict of each individual book. And while she doesn't defeat the main villain at the end of books 1 or 2, she does succeed in getting her amplifier and defeating that story conflict and plot. Remember, guys, they don't always have to defeat the villain, but they always have to overcome the conflict. However, that does not mean that these conflicts should not lead to, drumroll please, the overarching structure. We love an overarching structure. Cormac, stop it. The overarching structure is the key to a series. Every series has a main structure. Every series has an overarching villain. And every series feels that much more interesting because of it. You don't always have to know who the villain is. It could be a twist, but there is always clues, foreshadowing, little bits of things leading up to something. A character seeing something out of place, mysterious visions, tons and tons and tons of foreshadowing. Have I said foreshadowing before? If it wasn't clear already, I love an overarching plot. An overarching plot is my best friend. Overarching plots are my favorite thing in the universe, or one of them at least. An overarching plot allows a writer and a reader to fully immerse themselves in a universe and guess cliffhangers left and right. I swear I'm not that good. I've just watched a lot of CW shows. What overarching plot do you like most? Are you a fan of good versus evil? Are you a fan of mythology adaptations? Are you a fan of good versus evil? Have all the villains in your books be working towards one goal for one overarching villain, and that is your overarching plot. Do you love coming of age? Have your character overcome a challenge in each book that ultimately leads to them overcoming their original character flaw and becoming an adult person, or a teenage person, depending on what age you're writing. Overarching plot, specifically in fantasy, often means prophecy. I'm not saying it has to be prophecy, but guys, prophecy. Who doesn't want a prophecy? I certainly love a prophecy. Cassandra Clare, George R. R. Martin, Leigh Bardugo, Holly Black, Alex Astor, Chris Colfer, everyone uses prophecy. They're everywhere. Sarah J. Maas has like 7 of them. Prophecies are the bread and butter of a fantasy author. And if I can't plug the importance of prophecy to any of you who might be writing fantasy, I don't know why I'm here. But most of all, it's important that you just have fun with your overarching plot. You can make it whatever you want it to be, and that's really the goal. You want your overarching plot to be something that interests you to keep writing your book series. But that leads us to another important key point and another step in the outlining process: theme and character. Using themes is critical when writing an overarching story. These themes, as already referenced, good versus evil, coming of age, corruption, all of these have the potential to be incredible. But you need to make sure that you know what these themes are. You can reference them in each book or just make a long list of themes that you want to include in a Word document and go, yeah, that's what we're going to work with. But it's fine. Theme also connects to what each character should do in each book. Is your character going to be corrupted by the end of the series? If so, by the 3rd book in a 5-book series, they should be on the slippery slope. They should have committed a murder. They should have done XYZ. They should be ready to fall. In contrast, if your character is on a redemption arc throughout the series, by the 2nd book in a trilogy, they should be already close to tipping. They should have decided, you know what? My old ways, I was a horrible person. I'm going to make amends. Maybe this leads them down the right path. Maybe they end up dead. I'm looking at so many people right now. Who knows? That's for you to decide, because if it's one thing authors love, it's to destroy their readers. This also helps you figure out what each character should do in each book and how each book's story relates to them individually. Have fun with it. Brainstorm. I recommend lengthy blank documents when working on this. But finally, the last thing we need to talk about when discussing the tools you need for writing your book series is it a series or is it a universe? Yes, this is an important discussion, and no, I'm totally not just saying this because I love series and I love universes. I promise. That said, I could spend hours debating this issue, so if anyone's interested in that video, please subscribe for more. To distinguish between a series and a universe, a series is a collection of books with an overarching plot, and a universe is a collection of series set in the same world. Of course, the universe in itself has a completely different definition, but universe and series in connection to literature, these are the definitions we're going with. The Percy Jackson series, or the Rick Riordan universe, depending on your favorite title for it, is a great example of this. Rick Riordan started with the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, ended that's overarching plot. We're not talking about the recent sequels, that's a different debate. And then made a spin-off series that directly correlated to the previous series called The Heroes of Olympus. These 2 series are completely different, with different villains and different focuses. But that does not mean that they are not connected within Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson universe. A lot of writers do universes. George R. R. Martin, Leigh Bardugo, Cassandra Clare. Can you tell where I get my love for overarching plots? Most of you might be familiar with the film variation, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's one of them. I'm a big fan of universes. I'm a big Marvel fan too. I should wear my Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. medallion one of these days, just so you all can understand how much I love overarching plots. But I digress. I'd say Rick Riordan and Cassandra Clare are probably YA Fantasy's most prolific universe writers, and I love both of their universes. They're incredible. These universes have spanned multiple series over nearly 20 years apiece, and that's incredible. You can do that. If you want to make a series, go for it. You have a spin-off idea? Go for it. I certainly did. Most authors have these ideas. It's why a lot of popular authors will often keep releasing novellas for their favorite books years afterwards. Even the father of modern fantasy himself, J.R.R. Tolkien, made an expanded universe. And anyone who has ever read anything in the Tolkien universe knows how expanded it is. There are people who are Tolkien scholars, guys. Tolkien scholars. How do you get that job? I want to be a scholar for the thing I love most in the world. Can I be a scholar for Lee Bardugo books? Can I be a scholar for Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Guys, I want to be a scholar for something cool like that. Instead, I'm doing this, which I'm having a lot of fun with. So let's continue. Remember when you're outlining your series that make it as natural as it feels to you. Make it as long or as short as you want. Maybe you only want a duology. Maybe you want a 7-book series that has 3 spin offs and 2 novella collections that you're going to plan to write at some point in the near future. Personally, for me, my main series is so expanded I probably won't be done writing it until I'm at least in my 40s, which is scary considering I've been writing it since I was 12 and I'm currently 18. That said, I digress again. Can you sense a pattern with me? Make sure that you know what you want, because that's the thing about writing a series. It is entirely up to you how long it is, what it's about, etc., etc. When writing, it is completely in your control the type of book you write and the type of story you create. So remember these tips, and hopefully they will help you in planning your series. But there you go, guys. There is my basic outline for all the stuff I would do if I was outlining a series for the first time. I hope this video was helpful for you, and I hope my love of overarching plots didn't terrify you forever. If you'd like more videos about writing, outlining, or world building, please subscribe to my channel and comment ideas that you guys would like me to see me cover next. I also hope that through this process I have convinced you all that all of your random ideas, yes, all of them, can be fit into one singular series if you just add like 5 more books to it and make your series 3 times longer. But that said, bye my lovely writers. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.